What is truth? How do we determine what is truth in a sea of information, misinformation, disinformation, confusion, polarity, and chaos? In a world of division and polarity, where we're dealing with many different crises and potentially on the brink of destruction of our way of life, I would argue there is nothing more important than our pursuit and discovery of truth. In this series of videos, we're going to explore the nature of truth and how to discover it, and most importantly, how to apply it to make positive change in our world. Hey, it's Norbert Orlowitz here with a Renegade Conversation. Welcome to this series on discovering truth. I'm really excited and looking forward to this series. We're going to be exploring a lot of different topics from a lot of different angles and really pursuing truth. That's really what this whole channel is about. And so I figured no better way than to actually create a series of videos specifically focused on what is truth, how do we discover truth, how do we get at truth, and then I think most importantly is how do we apply the truth that we learn into practical applications to make positive change in the world. We are most certainly living in interesting times where there seems to be a coordinated assault on truth, where the common belief, it seems to be in Western civilization at least, the common belief is that it seems to be that there is no truth. You know, this postmodern concept, ideology, that all truth is relativism, that all truth is subjective. You know, we fight so adamantly about his truth and her truth, my truth, what is your truth, my personal truth. And all of that has its place, obviously, because each of us has our own perception of reality, which is our own personal truth. But that does not negate the fact that there is an objective truth. Now, before we get into the debate about objective truth and truth itself, the nature of truth, and how we go about discovering truth, because there are specific processes to do that, in this video, I want to share with you exactly, specifically, how we can go about solving the world's problems. Now, if you speak to the majority of people, I would say that most people have a similar and shared perspective of what we want out of life and what we would imagine that an ideal world would look like. I think we can also agree that most people would agree that the world we currently inhabit is not the ideal civilization, society, situation that we would like to have. There's a lot of conflict, oppression, poverty, suffering, an incredible amount of suffering on this planet. And, you know, some people will say, well, that's just human nature. That's just the way it is. It's always been like that. And, you know, we can't expect to make any positive changes in the world. I personally am an optimist. I would say I believe in the good of humanity. And so I have always tended to fall in the idealism side of humanity, where I see that, no, we can actually create a better world. There are just certain things that are getting in the way, whether it's the systems or beliefs that we hold. Those things are preventing us from having the world that we all desire to live in. One of the foundational principles that I'm going to argue, and that Mark Passio argues, is that our beliefs drive our reality, right? The existence that we currently have, the life that we live, the society that we've created is nothing more than our belief systems, right? Our belief systems shape our behaviors, how we act, what we do in the real world, and those behaviors have real world consequences. So that goes back to a fundamental universal principle of cause and effect. Right? If you behave in certain ways, you will have certain results or consequences. Now, my personal work over the last 14 years in business and marketing, personal and business coaching has allowed me to develop a deep knowledge in human psychology and belief systems and how those belief systems shape our reality and influence the results that we get in our reality. So for instance, we might say that we want certain things in our life. Like we might say that, we want to be fit and healthy and strong and lose weight. All of us make New Year's resolutions, that kind of thing. But our deeper belief systems prevent us from developing the habits and taking the consistent actions that are required to get the results. Our belief systems have us fall back into habits that are not healthy, that do not create the behaviors and the habits, right, the action, which will give us the results that we want. So we say we want one thing, but our beliefs create behaviors and actions which make it impossible for us to get the thing that we want. And this is a beautiful microcosm of the larger issue, the larger problem that we have as a society. All right, so in this video, like I said, we're going to be looking at a specific process on how we can actually go about solving the world's problems. So I'm going to start with this first slide right here. And again, this is from Mark Passio's presentation on natural law, the real law of attraction. And he talks about requirements. Human beings say that they want certain conditions to be present for both themselves and their species as a whole, such as happiness, health, peace, freedom, prosperity, etc. I think we could all agree that those are things that we would all want to have more of in our personal lives and in society as a whole. Now, we say we want these things, just like we say we want to lose weight, we want to be more fit, we want to improve our relationships, etc., etc. However, this is the important thing that he points out here. He points out that specific requirements exist in order for human beings to obtain these conditions, right? So we want certain conditions, but they're not just magically going to happen. There's certain requirements that are needed for us to have those conditions. If we want to lose weight, we want to be more fit, we want to be stronger, we're going to have to change our diet, eat healthier foods, exercise, lift weights, etc., etc. There's certain requirements that are necessary. Basic logic. So we understand, and I think we can all agree on, that if these requirements, whatever these requirements are, if these requirements for obtaining these conditions are not met, those conditions will not happen. They're not just going to manifest automatically by magical means. We will not have the conditions that we desire unless we fulfill the specific requirements. Okay, so what are the requirements is obviously the first question. Well, we would argue that the first requirement is going to be knowledge. So in this slide, the role of knowledge, and again, I'm linking to the full presentation in the description. I would highly recommend you watch it. The role of knowledge. So since human beings as a species do not already have the things that we say we want, it follows logically that the knowledge of the requirements to obtaining the things that we say we want either must be absent, or if the knowledge is there, then that knowledge must be willfully being ignored. Ignorance, I believe, is one of the most dangerous viruses that is infecting our species and our civilization as a whole. And what's important to understand about the word ignorance, ignorance does not mean the lack of knowledge, meaning that the knowledge doesn't exist. It means that we are ignoring the knowledge. We are ignoring, ignorance. The root of the word is ignore. We're ignoring it. The knowledge is there. The knowledge is present for anyone who wants to see it. However, we are ignoring that knowledge, ignorance. Now, as long as this knowledge continues to remain unknown or ignored, the manifestation of the desired conditions will be impossible. We want to create change in the world. We want to improve our lives. We want to have more freedom. We want peace, tranquility, happiness, equality. We want a better planet, right? Whatever it is that you want, depending on what your desires are. I think most of us can agree on the same things that we want as a society and a species. But the argument here is that if we do not have the things that we want, and we haven't been able to create it since the beginning of civilization, then obviously the knowledge of what is required to have those things is either completely absent, meaning we just don't know what it is, or it's being ignored. I think this is a logical argument, makes a lot of sense. And so therefore, we need to pursue this knowledge. All right, so now let's look at the 3 steps to solving all the world problems. This is really a simple 3-step process, and it really is the 3 steps for solving really any problem. Doesn't matter what the problem is. These are the basic steps to solving the problem. So the first step in solving a problem is obviously to recognize that there is a problem, which means that fear-based denial of the problem must first be dealt with and conquered. Now, I would say one of the easiest ways to create agreement between a lot of different people and identify who has accepted the fact that there is a problem and those that are in denial is to simply ask the question of somebody, are you content with the way things are in the world? I would think that the majority of people, if you ask them that question, the majority of people would say that they are not fully content with the way that things are in the world. I'm sure that there are some people that would say that they're fully content, and those people are unequivocally in denial of the reality of the situation that we're in. These are the people who are simply unwilling to look at reality, unwilling to look at the state of things in our world, in our civilization, with our species as a whole. When we're young, we typically have an idealism around the world, and we can't understand why certain things are the way that they are in the world. It doesn't make any sense to a child. Why is there war? Why isn't there peace? Why are there people that are hungry and starving? It just doesn't make any sense. And I think that that's a really important aspect to our humanity, to know that deep down inside, our intuition tells us that something is wrong. Our intuition tells us that things don't have to be this way. There's got to be a better way. And if you've ever thought that, that there's got to be a better way, then we're in the same camp. We believe the same things. We are on the same team, honestly. And I don't care what political spectrum you fall into or what beliefs you might hold. If you and I can both agree that there's problems, serious problems in this world right now, and there's got to be a better way, then we're on the same team. If you agree that you would love to see humanity have more peace, more compassion, more equality, more abundance, more prosperity for all of us, more equality, then we're on the same team. Now, step 2 is very important. It's to recognize that symptoms are merely effects of underlying causes. So we're going to be talking a lot about cause and effect. It's a universal law of the universe, cause and effect. Therefore, instead of simply treating symptoms, we have to make an accurate diagnosis of the causes of the problem. Now, what's interesting here is Mark's use of the word diagnosis. And he loves getting into etymology, the study of the root of words, which I really love about his presentations as well. So here he breaks apart the word diagnosis, which is interesting. The word dia, from the Greek preposition dia, means through or by way of, and then the Greek noun gnosis means knowledge. So by way of knowledge. So by way of knowledge, we can determine what the root causes of the problem are. Now, this is really what attracts me to Mark Passio's work here, is because I feel that he's one of the few intellectuals who are really looking at the root causes by way of knowledge. Many intellectuals and academics and people working on the crisis issues that we're facing, I feel like many of them are dealing with the symptoms, right? Instead of actually dealing with the root causes. And so this is the critical part of our entire exploration here. And when we're looking at different solutions and we're looking at different individuals and organizations that are looking to solve the world's problems, we need to ask, are they dealing with the symptoms, or are they actually digging down to affect and change at the root causes of the problem. Because until we diagnose through the way of knowledge the root causes of the problem, we're going to keep chopping at the branches, right? While the roots are growing stronger and stronger, and new branches will just keep flourishing. And so now we can move into step 3. Once through the knowledge acquired via accurate diagnosis, right, we can now take the required action necessary to rectify the causal factors. Not just deal with the symptoms, not just fix the symptoms, but actually take action to rectify the causal factors which led to the manifestation of the problem. Now, this, in my view, is the only worthwhile pursuit. If we are genuinely interested in the positive changes that we need to make on our planet, within our society, within our civilization, we must look at the root causes. And again, the only way to get there is going to be through a proper diagnosis, through the way of knowledge. And so we must acquire the right knowledge that will affect the right conditions and the right behaviors to create and manifest the reality that we desire. All right, I want to hear your thoughts about this video and the content that was shared here. Please like and share, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. We're going to have links down below where you can subscribe to the podcast so that you're notified. Get on the email list so you're notified when the podcast launches. And please, in the comments, I would love to hear your thoughts, your opinions, your viewpoints on the information shared here. And I will see you in the next video. We'll be talking about truth versus perception.